It's 4:30 on Monday, and I don't know about you, but if you listen to podcasts or if you do any kind of reading and personal development, I find that when I start to kind of go down a rabbit hole and starting to listen to different kinds of personal development, opportunities are presented to me. So I might be reading a certain kind of book. I'm actually writing a blog right now about something, and then I started listening to a podcast this morning, and they all had to do with the same sort of thing. And it's all talking about your inner voice and how we all have a mean girl, right? We all have that voice that is in our heads who we basically need to put in their place. And I'm going to put a challenge out to you. When that voice creeps up and it kind of starts to make an appearance and you start to listen to it, that can stop you dead in your tracks. I'm reading I Am That Girl right now. And it's talking about that voice and giving it energy and giving it power. And the longer that we allow that to happen, the more powerful that voice is going to become. And when you start to create change in your life, change is really hard, you guys. It's hard to create positive change in your life. And so when you start to do that and things come up like everyday stress, or you're not getting the results that you want quickly enough, or people are bringing in treats to the staff room and you're really tempted, or you give into the temptation and then you all of a sudden feel guilty about it. All those things are really, really difficult. But if you don't start to work on that voice inside your head, then those things are never going to go away. You're not going to be without stress. You're not going to be without anxiety. You're not going to be without all the things that come up in your life, but you will be able to cope with it a bit better if you develop systems where you can go, you know what, I'm going to call it for what it is. I'm going to call it out. I'm going to call that shit out for what it is, right? My dog's right now. I'm going to call it out for what it is and move on. You have to start to recognize that voice in your head when you start to doubt yourself, when you start to let fear take over, when you start to recognize what fear looks like and the way that you're projecting that on other people. Maybe you're starting to attack your spouse, or you're starting to have a short fuse with your children. Is there something behind that, right? The way that you shame somebody else, whether it's in your thoughts or in conversations when you're talking about other people. Start to recognize those behaviors, and over the course of like a week, start to recognize the situations you find yourself in. And all you need to do is shift it. And I think a lot of the times when people watch people, I'm going through a lot of these changes very visibly on social media. And I think a lot of the times when people start to recognize changes in people, they think that people that are going through those changes think that they've got it all together, and that couldn't be further from the truth, could not be further from the truth. But I think what is important to recognize is that when people start to make a shift, they're simply starting to recognize and acknowledge flaws in themselves that they're working on. And they're sharing it with other people because they simply want you to recognize that they themselves have those exact same flaws. So when you start to doubt something that you've taken on as a project, or new goals that you set for yourself, and you're stopped because, well, they're hard to accomplish. If they were easy, then everybody would be doing them, right? So you're on this page, it's a health and fitness page. If everybody was attacking their goals and sticking with it over the long term, then I wouldn't have a job, right? I wouldn't have people that need some support. So change is going to be difficult. If you expect it to be easy, then you're always going to feel like a failure. But if you recognize that failure is going to happen, if you recognize that failure is just going to happen, it's going to be a way of life, then you're going to be that much more successful, you guys. Just rip off that Band-Aid and put it out to the world that you're doing something, that you're making some changes. And then as things come up, as treats come up, or different situations, different stressors, different things that come up in your life that are going to stop you from reaching your goals, you're going to be able to go, you know what? This is trying to get in my way. I'm going to own it. I'm going to indulge, or I'm going to skip my workout, or I'm going to get my workout in and I'm going to move on. So whatever it is that comes up in your life, that mean girl voice that's inside your head where you're being catty and you're gossiping, you're talking about other people, put it back on yourself. You wouldn't do that to yourself, right? You wouldn't talk to yourself or even talk to your friends the way that you do talk to yourself. That mean girl voice can be either a voice that you project on other people, or it can be your own identity, the own way that you talk to yourself. can be terrible sometimes. And it's more so us protecting who we are. We're protecting, we don't want other people to kind of make fun of us before we have a chance of being we don't want to be the brunt of the joke, right? We don't want other people to feel like they kind of have one up on us when we can just make the joke ahead of time. I spoke about that this morning. That was me for a very long time. And I've since gone through so much change and so much growth. And it simply has been a way to recognize who I am and my way in this world and how I can share that with other people. So that's us. It's 4:30. It's supper time. I hope this helps. Chat soon.